He saw her before she crossed the fence line. No shoes, dress torn along the hem, belly round and low like it was about to give. She didn't wave, didn't pause, just walked like the ground owed her. He didn't move, just watched from the edge of the corral, hand still on the feed bucket. She stepped through without asking. "You hungry?" he said. She didn't answer. "You lost?" She kept walking. He dropped the bucket. The horses shifted behind him, restless. She stopped 10 feet away, wouldn't look up, eyes locked on the dirt. Her hair stuck to her neck with sweat. "You're limping." Still nothing. He pointed toward the porch. "I got water and a chair." She didn't move. He took 2 steps forward, held out the folded blanket slung over his arm, one he kept by the stove for cold nights. She stared at it like it might burn her. "Go on," he said. "Take it." She did. Quick and tight, like someone might rip it from her, clutched it to her chest with both arms. Still no eye contact. He opened the door and stood aside. She walked in like she'd lived there once and forgot what it felt like. Inside was silent, except for the tick of the clock above the sink. "You can sit," he said. She stayed standing. He poured water from the jug and set it on the table. I watched her fingers tremble when she took the glass. "You got a name?" She said nothing. He leaned against the counter, waited. "Are you running from someone?" Still silent. He looked at her feet, cracked, blistered, raw at the heels. The way she stood made him think she didn't feel it anymore. "Are you due soon?" She looked past him, eyes glassy, didn't nod, didn't shake her head. He pointed to the cot in the corner beside the stove. "You can sleep there, just for the night." She moved like her bones weighed more than they should, sat without speaking, still wouldn't meet his eyes. He watched her curl into herself, the blanket wrapped tight around her belly. She didn't take off her dress, just sat stiff and hollow, like something already inside her had left. He stepped out onto the porch, lit a smoke he hadn't touched in 3 years. His hands shook more than they used to. The air was dry, coyote somewhere deep in the ridgeline. He finished the smoke, went back inside. She hadn't moved. "Are you cold?" No answer. He added wood to the stove anyway. Midnight came quiet. Then it started, a sound like tearing cloth. Her breath caught in her throat. She was folded forward, gripping the cot frame. Water soaked the blanket. He crossed the room fast. She looked at him for the first time, eyes dark, afraid, but not of him. "You in labor?" She nodded once. He knelt. "Can I touch you?" "Nothing." "I'm not going to hurt you. I need to help." Another nod, just barely. He pulled the extra blanket off the shelf. Wet a cloth, laid it all down beside her. The contractions hit. Hard. Her body jerked forward, then went still. She bit into her hand. No screaming, no pleading. Just that awful silence, like she'd learned to be quiet from something worse than pain. The baby came fast, too fast. He caught it. It was a boy, breathing, quiet. "You did good," he said. She didn't answer. He wrapped the baby, held him out. She took him slow, like she thought he might disappear. Then she whispered something. "He's yours." He froze. "What?" She didn't repeat it. I don't know you." She didn't look at him. "You think this is funny." Still silent, he paced. "That ain't mine. I haven't touched anyone since—" She whispered again. "You already did." He stared at her, chest tight. What the hell does that mean? No answer. The baby didn't cry, just blinked, slow and steady. He sat on the floor, couldn't find his hands. She rocked the child. Her breath was shallow. "What's your name?" he asked again. She closed her eyes. "You can't just show up and say something like that. You don't get to do that." The fire snapped behind them. "You don't know me," he said. Finally she spoke, barely a whisper. "I know who you were." He stood. "You need to sleep. We'll talk in the morning." She didn't respond. He stared at her one last time. At the boy. At the blanket still damp in her lap. Then he turned and walked out. Slammed the door behind him. And still, she wouldn't look at him. The fire had burned down to a glow. The woman hadn't moved all night. The baby slept in her arms, quiet as breath. The rancher stood by the window, staring out into the gray morning. No clouds, no sun, just that colorless stretch of land. And beyond it, the ridge that marked the edge of everything. He turned when he heard her shift. She was sitting up now, still wrapped in the same blanket, her face pale but firm. The baby stirred but didn't cry. She looked down at him, then back out of the window. "Do you need anything?" the rancher asked. She didn't answer. He stepped toward the stove. I got eggs, salt pork. You ought to eat. She shook her head. You've been quiet for a long time, he said. Still nothing. He poured coffee into a chipped cup, set it on the table near her. She didn't move to touch it. He's healthy, he said. Didn't make a sound coming out, but he's breathing fine. That's something. She didn't look up. He's yours, the rancher asked. Her voice came low. I told you, he's yours. He breathed in hard. You don't remember. He blinked. I would. No, she said. You wouldn't. He stared at her, jaw tight. That's not how things work. She ran her thumb along the baby's cheek. You think I came here by accident? He walked to the window again. Same gray sky. Same ridgeline. I don't know what you came here for, he said. She stood slowly. The baby stayed asleep in her arms. She walked to the door. I opened it. The wind caught her hair. The boy blinked, his head turning toward the ridge. What are you doing? The rancher asked. She stepped onto the porch, barefoot still. Don't go out there. You just gave birth. She looked west. He was born facing that way, she said. The rancher frowned. What does that mean? She didn't explain. Tell me what you're running from. She touched the baby's back. Not running. He stepped onto the porch beside her. You think I did something? That I knew you? She didn't turn. You were a different man then. His voice dropped. I've never seen you in my life. She looked at the horizon. That doesn't mean you weren't there. He swallowed hard. The porch boards creaked under his weight. I had a wife, he said. She died 6 years ago. I buried her under the east oak. I know, she said. His heart slowed. How? She wasn't the only one that bled on this land. He stepped back. You need to leave. She turned then, looked him full in the face for the first time. I will, when he's ready. He stared at her. He's just a baby. She nodded. Not for long. He looked at the child. For the first time, I really looked. Pale skin, dark eyes, quiet, too quiet. You're talking in riddles. She stepped past him back into the house. He followed, closed the door. You can't just show up here. Hand me a baby. Tell me he's mine. She sat down again, laid the boy on the blanket. He didn't cry, just looked up at the ceiling, wide-eyed, blinking slowly. He doesn't blink like a newborn, the rancher said. No, she said. He sees. He knelt beside the fire, stared at the flame like it might tell him something. I don't believe in ghosts, he said. She picked up the coffee, drank once. That doesn't stop them. He stared at the boy. I buried a child once, stillborn. My wife wouldn't stop crying. I told her it was better this way. The woman nodded. You believed it. I had to. She folded the baby's blanket tighter. You ever think about what happens when a soul doesn't leave right? He looked at her. I think you should stop talking. He was born facing west. That means something. He stood. Number it doesn't. Has your brother ever told you about the ridge? The rancher froze. You don't know my brother. I know what he did. I know where. The rancher's hands curled into fists. Get out, he said. She didn't move. He pointed to the door. Now. The baby turned his head toward the sound, eyes still open. I'll leave, she said. But you'll follow. He shook his head. No, I won't. She stood, lifted the child. You already have. She walked to the cot, lay the boy down, pulled the blanket to his chin. You'll see, she said. He stayed by the fire, didn't speak. The baby blinked once, then looked toward the west-facing wall. And the rancher, for reasons he could not explain, looked too. She stood over the stove before dawn, one hand steadying the pan, the other trembling. The oil spit and hissed as she dropped in the eggs. Her sleeves were rolled back. That's when he saw it. Skin raw across her palms, pink and peeling like it had been burned clean days ago. He didn't say anything at first, just watched her. Quiet. You don't need to cook, he said. She didn't look at him. I can do that myself. Still nothing. He stepped closer, slow. You hurt? She didn't turn. You burned yourself? No answer. He stepped beside her and reached for her wrist. She pulled back before he touched her. You should let those heal, he said. She stirred the pan with the edge of a wooden spoon. The handle shook in her grip. The baby was on the cot behind her, eyes open, watching the ceiling like something was up there. He tried again. "Where'd you get burned?" She turned then, finally, but not to answer. "Do you remember the fire?" she asked. His jaw tensed. "What fire?" She looked down at the eggs. "Didn't think so." "There wasn't any fire," he said. She slid the eggs onto the plate. He stared at her hands again. Blisters beneath the skin, faded scars around the wrists like rope burns that never faded right. "You need bandages." She shook her head. "You shouldn't be touching hot pans like that." "I've cooked through worse." He stepped back, watching her set the plate on the table like it didn't matter. "Are you always this quiet?" he asked. "When it matters." The baby cooked once, not loud, just a soft hum. "Are you ever going to tell me where you came from?" he asked. She sat across from him, but not all the way, perched, like she didn't trust the chair. He noticed the way she used her fingertips, barely touched anything, like the burns had taken more than skin. "You keep saying things like, 'I'm supposed to remember you,'" he said. She didn't argue. "And that fire, there never was a fire. Not on this land, not in this house." "Not that you remember," she said. He pushed his chair back. "I built this place with my wife. Every board, every nail. I know what's happened here." She looked at the baby. "Do you?" He stood. "You want me to believe something bad happened here. You better say it." She didn't flinch. "You better stop speaking in circles." Her hands were folded now, red knuckles on top of red palms. "You ever think some things don't burn all the way down?" she asked. He walked to the window. The barn sat quiet out back, its roof dark in the morning light. One of the horses neighed once, uneasy. "You got ghosts?" he asked without looking at her. "Don't need ghosts," she said. "You have a memory." He watched the wind move the grass. That night, the woman folded the same blanket she'd arrived with and placed it neatly by the cot. The baby didn't cry, just lay silent like he always did. The rancher couldn't remember hearing him make a single real sound since birth. She stood by the stove again, rubbing salve on her hands she'd taken from the cupboard without asking. "You hear that?" he asked suddenly. She paused. "Something in the barn." "I don't hear anything." "Footsteps." She didn't move. He stepped outside. The barn door creaked open. No wind, no animals out. He grabbed the lantern, crossed the dirt slowly. The barn was empty. He checked the hayloft, the stalls. Nothing. He came back inside. She was still by the stove. "No one there." She nodded once. "You know what I saw there last week?" he said. She looked at him. "Badge. Old one. Buried in the beam." Her eyes didn't change. "Do you know anything about that?" She went back to rubbing her hands. He stepped closer. "You keep acting like I should know you, like I did something to you, but I don't remember you. Not your face, not your voice, not your damn story." She kept her eyes on the salve tin. "Maybe memory's a choice," she said. "I don't forget people." "You did." He pointed toward the baby. "You said he's mine. You won't tell me how. Now you're saying I forgot some fire that never happened. You want me to feel guilty for something I can't name." Her hands stopped moving. "You don't need to name it," she said. He stared at her. "You need to feel it." He didn't speak. The baby's eyes blinked once, slowly, still facing west, always west. The woman turned back to the stove. The eggs were burning. She didn't seem to notice. The beam cracked during the storm. One of the center supports in the barn splintered down the middle like something inside it had tried to get out. The rancher swung the hammer slow, prying loose the boards one at a time. Dry rot. Old wood. Nothing unusual, until the third plank came off. Behind it, tucked into the frame like an offering, was a tarnished sheriff's badge. He didn't touch it at first, just stared. Star-shaped, worn smooth. No name, no number, just the shape of power left behind. He reached for it. Cold, heavy, dirt packed into the ridges. Footsteps behind him. "You lose something?" she said. He turned, still holding the badge. She stood barefoot again, the baby pressed against her chest. "Have you seen this before?" Her eyes dropped to his hand, and for the first time since she arrived, she flinched. He caught it, that half second of something. Not fear exactly, but memory, sharpened and cruel. "You know what this is?" he asked. She didn't speak. "You said there was a fire." "There was. Now there's a badge." She stepped into the barn. Her voice is low. If you dig behind that beam, you'll find more than wood. He narrowed his eyes. What does that mean? She walked past him, ran her fingers along the inside wall, tracing grooves. Teeth, she said. He froze. What? Behind the panel, buried in the dirt. He laughed once, dry. Are you serious? She didn't answer. He dropped to his knees, started clawing at the base of the wall, dirt packed tight, cold from shade. She didn't stop him. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Then he found one. Small. White. Humans. He sat back hard. That ain't... He looked up. That ain't possible. She held the baby closer. He used to bring them here. Who? She looked at the badge. Not your sheriff. The one before. There's never been... There was. For 7 years. No records. No trials. Just a badge, a voice, and a barn. He held the tooth in his palm like it might burn through. You're lying. I was 13 the first time I came here. He shook his head. You think this land was yours? It never was. It belonged to whoever held that badge. He looked at the wood, at the nails, at the shape of the barn he had rebuilt after the fire, the one he swore never happened. You don't just bury teeth. You do when no one asks questions. He stood. You need to leave. She didn't move. I mean it. She walked to the post where the badge had been hidden, ran her hand along the splinters. He said if we screamed more than once, we'd be sorry. He clenched his jaw. Are you trying to blame me for this? You were here. No, I wasn't. You were a boy. He took a step back. You don't know what you're talking about. I do. She sat down on the hay bale. The baby still didn't cry, just blinked slowly, one hand pressed to her collarbone. There were 5 girls, she said, not counting me. He didn't respond. He kept lists. He rubbed his face, dirt under his nails. I bought this land after my wife died. It was clean. She looked around. Is it? He didn't answer. He wore the badge like it meant something, she said. But it didn't come from any office, just fear. Why are you here? He asked again. Voice low. She finally looked at him. Because I remembered, even if no one else did. He stared at the tooth in his hand. What do you want from me? She looked at the baby. What's his name? He asked. She shrugged. He doesn't need one yet. That's not normal. Neither is this place. He walked outside, needed air, light. The wind pushed across the grass. Same land, same sky. But it didn't feel the same. She followed him. Out. You could leave, he said. So could you. I didn't do this. You didn't stop it either. He looked toward the ridge. I was a kid. So was I. The baby made a sound then. Not a cry. More like a hum. Long. Unnatural. He turned. I watched the child's eyes scan the horizon. He knows, she said. The badge was still in his pocket. Heavy now. You gonna dig the rest? She asked. He didn't answer. If you don't, someone else will. He looked back at the barn. The wood creaked in the wind. He took a step toward it and stopped. He didn't sleep. Not much. The tooth still sat on the counter where he left it, next to the sheriff's badge. He hadn't touched either since. The barn was quiet now. Too quiet. The air around it felt wrong, like it remembered things, even if he didn't. Inside the house, the woman stood barefoot at the stove again, the same way she always did, right hand blistered, left hand steady. The baby slept curled on the cot, fist to his cheek. You don't have to cook, he said from the doorway. She didn't turn. I already did. He stepped in, slow, sat at the table, eyes heavy. Are you always this quiet? He asked. When folks don't listen, she said. He watched her crack the eggs. Her wrist twisted the same way someone else's had. Years ago. He couldn't quite place it, but it tugged at something. Have you ever lived near here? He asked. I lived everywhere. He stared at her back. This land wasn't mine until 6 years ago. Before that, it was owned by men, she said. All the same. He rubbed his eyes. Did you come through this valley as a girl? She didn't answer. He leaned forward. I remember someone, barefoot, torn dress, thin as a rail, stood by the west fence, asked for water. I was maybe 17. Her shoulders stiffened. I didn't give her any, he said. I was afraid my father would see. She flipped the eggs. She looked hurt, he said. I told myself it wasn't my business. The woman plated the food, set it in front of him. You want me to say it was me? Was it? She looked at him. Does it matter? He stared down at the food. I thought about her sometimes. After, the way she didn't cry, just stood there like she expected to be ignored. Sounds familiar, she said. You remember me? She didn't answer. You said I was a boy back then. That I was here. You were, she said. I was too. He looked at the badge again, still sitting where he left it. There was a sheriff back then, called himself that anyway. She nodded. He used to walk the line with his rifle and say he was keeping order. I believed him. That's how it works, she said. He tapped the table with his fingers. Did he hurt you? She glanced toward the baby. That's not the question. What is? Why didn't anyone stop him? He didn't speak. The stove popped as the wood settled. I thought he was doing what men were supposed to do, the rancher said. Talk loud. Keep women in line. Keep girls quiet. She walked over to the cot, checked the blanket around the baby, tucked it tighter. I didn't know it was wrong, he said. She looked at him. That's the problem. He stood. I walked to the window. The fence line stretched out far, thin wire catching light. I saw you, he said. I think it was you. That day at the fence. She didn't deny it. I remember you said one thing. Just one. What was it? She asked. He turned. You said, don't let him find me. Her lips pressed tight. I didn't help. No, she said. You didn't. He stepped back, hands to his sides. I'm sorry. You were 17, she said. He was 50. I still could have. You didn't. Silence pressed in again, heavy, still. You think I don't carry that? He asked. She walked past him, slow, sat back at the table. You only started carrying it when I came back. He looked at her hands again, burned, scarred. What did he do to you? Her voice was soft. Everything. He sat across from her. You said there were other girls. There were. You know what happened to them. She didn't look at him. Same thing. He watched her, tried to find the girl in her face. You made it out, he said. She touched the badge. Not really. The baby stirred, made a sound like breath trying to be words. He turned toward the cot. You said he's mine. She didn't move. Is he? She stood. He belongs to the land now, same as the rest. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. She walked to the window. I looked west. He sat at the table, plate untouched, hands shaking. I remember the girl, he whispered, and I remember looking away. Her reflection stared back at him from the glass. Then don't look away again. The bell rang just after sundown, once, long and low, same as it always had. The sound rolled across the valley like it came from beneath the earth, not above it. The rancher froze halfway to the stove. The woman was already still, standing by the window with the baby pressed to her chest. Then it happened again. The boy stopped moving, not stiff, not asleep, just still, eyes wide, not blinking. He does that every time? The rancher asked. She didn't answer. I said, yes, she whispered. He stared at the child. He just locks up? He hears it. It's just a bell. She looked out the window. It rang the night they buried my mother. He frowned. What are you talking about? The old church, the one behind the ridge. They rang it when the ground was ready. Never once before. You think he knows that? He was born remembering things. He shook his head. That's not. Babies don't do that. You sure? The boy's eyes tracked the ceiling, like something moved up there. The fire crackled behind them. The bell didn't ring again. You said to your mother, what happened to her? She pulled the baby closer. I wasn't supposed to be there. Where? The church. He waited. She screamed, the woman said. I heard it through the boards. The rancher stepped back. What are you saying? They said it was childbirth. Said she bled too much. But she'd already had me. I was 4. He looked at the baby again. You're saying someone... She went missing for 2 weeks. Then they buried her. He didn't know what to say. He sat down slowly, eyes never leaving the boy. That church hasn't held a sermon in years, he said. They don't need sermons. The woman moved toward the cot and laid the child down. His eyes followed her hand, still no blinking. You see that? The rancher asked. He's listening. To what? Whatever's next. That's not normal. He's not normal. He stood up. Don't say that. You said it first. He walked toward the cot. The boy's eyes didn't move, fixed on something unseen. Hey, the rancher said softly. You okay? The boy blinked once, then again, rolled onto his side. Just like that, the spell was gone. I don't like this, he said. You don't have to. You said your mother died in childbirth. I said that's what they claimed. He turned. You think it was that fake sheriff? The one with the badge? She didn't speak. Was she one of the 5? She nodded once. I don't understand. Why would they bury her up there? Why ring the bell? Because they thought no one was listening. And you think this baby, he remembers it? She sat down slowly, wincing as her hands touched the table. He doesn't forget. The rancher sat too. You ever thought maybe something's wrong with him? She stared at him, hard. I didn't mean, he's not broken, she said. I didn't say he was. You thought about it. I said maybe he's not right. She reached across the table. Neither are we. The silence after that felt too thick. I hear things, he said finally. When I'm in the barn. I know. I see things in the mirror that aren't me. She nodded. I'm starting to think I've been sleepwalking. You haven't. You sure? Yes. He leaned forward. Then what the hell is happening? Her voice dropped. Truth. That's not a real answer. It's the only one that matters. He rubbed his face. You really think this baby came back with memory? I think he came back with purpose. To do what? She touched the edge of the cot. Finish what started. The wind pressed against the window. The bell rang again. Once. No time of day should have had it. The baby froze. The rancher stood. That's not right. That's not supposed to ring now. She didn't move. He grabbed his coat, slammed open the door, stepped onto the porch. The air was dead still. No sound, no wind, no horses, no bell. He turned. You heard that? She stood behind him now, the baby in her arms. Yes. He looked toward the ridge. Tomorrow, she said. What about it? You'll remember something. He stared at her. You won't want to. He looked at the boy again, still watching him, always watching. And in that moment, the rancher felt it for the first time, the slow, crawling sense that something had been following him longer than he knew. They came just after breakfast. 2 of them, coats too clean for the dust road, ties tight, boots polished, faces scrubbed so smooth they looked wrong, like someone tried to make men out of paint and water. The rancher saw them before they hit the gate. He didn't wave, didn't move, just stood on the porch, mug in hand, heart starting to beat a little wrong. The woman was inside. She'd just settled the baby in the cot. He stepped in. We got visitors. She looked up, eyes sharp. They're dressed like the kind of men that don't belong here. She didn't ask who. You want me to tell them something? She didn't speak, just lifted the baby into her arms and moved quickly to the trap door by the stove. He didn't stop her. By the time the knock came, she was already gone below. He opened the door. Morning, the taller man said. Too bright. You the owner? The other asked. Depends. Got a name? I do. They smiled. We're looking for a woman who passed through this way. Young, pregnant, brown hair, scar on her left hand. Don't know her, the rancher said. She might have a baby now. Lot of folks have babies. The taller one held up a folder. Empty. No writing, no seal, just blank papers. Do you mind if we come in? I do. Why's that? This is my land. We got reason to believe she came here. You got proof. They paused, smiles held tight. We were told she's dangerous. The second one said, not in the way you'd expect. Quiet kind. I don't shelter dangerous folk. She's stolen something. What? Again, that pause. The taller one tapped the folder. Something that belongs to the state. You brought blank papers to prove it. They don't need ink, he said. Only trust. The rancher leaned on the doorframe. Then you're out of luck. The second one stepped forward. You're sure she ain't here? Gone yesterday, the rancher said. Didn't leave a name. Where'd she go? Didn't say. They stared at him. One heartbeat too long. Do you mind if we look around? I do. The taller one glanced toward the barn. That's yours. Everything you see is. Mind if we walk it? I do. The baby didn't make a sound below. They shifted their feet. We'll be back, one of them said. You do that. They turned slow, like they wanted to say more, like they weren't used to being told no. He didn't move until they passed the fence. Then he shut the door and locked it. She came up 5 minutes later, dirt on her skirt, baby clutched close. They'll come back, she said. I know. You lied. I know. She looked at him for a long time. Why? He didn't answer at first. Then, because something's wrong with them. She sat at the table, laid the baby down. They're not from any office. I figured. They're not law. I saw the papers. He used to keep papers like that, she said. The sheriff, blank. He said it made them true. The rancher poured water into a tin cup, hands shaking. You didn't ask what I did, she said. I don't care. You should. He sat across from her. You ran. They chased. That's enough for me. She traced a line on the table with her finger. You think I stole something? I think they did. She looked up. He's not a secret. I know. They want him. Why? Because he remembers. He stared at the baby. You keep saying that. It's the only thing I know for sure. He exhaled, slow. I never lied like that before, he said. Why now? He looked at her. I don't know. She reached for the cup, drank once. Thank you, she said. He stood. I walked to the window. I watched the road. The dust was still settling behind them. They'll come back with more, he said. I know. Next time I won't have time to think. She nodded. Then don't think. He turned. You want me to fight them? No, she said. I want you to choose. He looked at the child again, peaceful, still. I already did. The fire burned low, barely more than an orange breath on the stove. The house was quiet, windless. Even the baby had gone still. The rancher sat at the table, sleeves rolled, jaw clenched. He hadn't spoken since sunset. She hadn't either, but she'd been staring at something in her lap for the last hour. A folded scrap of paper, edges curled, dark like it had nearly been swallowed by flame. She slid it across the table. Read it, she said. He didn't move. Go on. He picked it up. Hold it gently. The paper flaked where the heat had caught it, black at the corners, brittle. Only half the letter remained. The rest had burned. Whether by accident or on purpose, he couldn't tell. He read the first line. His name. Not hers. Not hers first. Hi. He kept reading, and with every word, his face changed. He didn't speak. At the bottom was a signature, slanted, confidence, his brother's. He let the paper fall from his fingers like it was wet. When? He asked. Years ago. He stared at her. You kept it? I tried to burn it. Why didn't you? I wanted to forget. He picked it back up, held it in both hands. It was a deal. That's what it reads like. A trade, not with names, just descriptions. Her, him, a location, a time, and money. You sure it's his? She nodded. I watched him write it. He closed his eyes. He said it was for order, she whispered. Said girls like me brought trouble. Said he was doing the town a favor. The rancher stood. I walked to the stove, held the letter close to the flame, then pulled it back. I thought he was better than me, he said. He wasn't. He raised me. She didn't answer. He told me to stay out of grown folks' business. Told me women lie. Told me law was in the hands of men with the stomach to hold it. She watched him carefully. And you believed him. He turned. I was a boy. So was he. He gripped the back of the chair. You were 13. Yes. You came to the fence. Yes. And he knew. Yes. He pressed his forehead into the edge of the wood. You said you saw me, she continued. And you didn't help. He nodded. But he saw me too. And he handed me over. The letter sat on the table again, blackened but still legible. You want me to believe my brother? He did. That he sold you to... He did. The rancher's voice cracked. Why? Because he could. The stove popped once. The wind shifted outside. He looked at the cot. The baby blinked, calm, watching. That boy, he said. He's yours, she said again. No, I mean, he's from this, she said. He's the last thing left of it. He looked at her. You came here to show me this? I came to see if you were still his. He stared at the flames. I'm not. Then prove it. He stepped back. How? She nodded toward the barn. That badge, those teeth, that wall. I can't erase it. No, she said, but you can stop lying to yourself. He grabbed the letter again. Hold it so tight the edges cracked. I loved him, he said. I didn't. He looked at her. I hated him, she said, but not because he touched me. I hated him because he taught you how to look away. The rancher sat back down, hard. I'm not that boy anymore. Then act like it. I've been trying to. She pointed to the paper. Start there. He looked at the fire, then at her, then at the boy. He stood again. Hold the letter out. This time, no hesitation. He let it go. I watched it curl and vanish into smoke. Good, she said, but his hands were shaking. Why now, he asked. Why bring it now? Because they're coming back. Those men, she nodded. He sent them. My brother's dead. No, she said. He just changed his name. He froze. He left this place, she said, but he took the sickness with him. The rancher didn't speak. He still wears a badge. She whispered. The fire crackled. The boy yawned softly, and the rancher finally understood. None of it was over. Not yet. They came back with rope. No papers this time, no smiles, just rope coiled neat on the taller one's hip like it belonged there. The sun was barely up. Mist still clung to the fence posts. The horses hadn't even stirred. The rancher stepped outside with the rifle across his back. They didn't flinch. Is she still here? One of them asked. He didn't answer. We don't need her to come easy. Just quiet. The second man pulled the rope loose, let it swing from his hand. You try that on my land, the rancher said. You'll find out what kind of man I've turned into. You think she's worth bleeding over? I think she's not yours to take. She was never yours either. A creak behind him. She stood in the doorway, baby in her arms, wrapped tight in the same smoke-colored blanket she'd carried since the first night. She didn't look scared, just tired, like she already knew the outcome. He turned. Go back inside. No, she said. You don't have to. I do. She walked forward slow, each step sinking into the dirt like it was trying to hold her there. They didn't move toward her. She stopped at the rancher's side. Then she held out the baby. He's yours now, she said. His hand shook when he took the child. Don't make the same mistake twice, she whispered. He looked at her, then at the men. You think I'm just going to stand here and let you... I'm already gone, she said. You don't have to be. She smiled. Barely. You always say that after. The baby whimpered. She turned to the men. No cuffs, she said. No fight? One of them asked. Not today. They stepped forward. One held the rope loose, the other watching her feet. She didn't cry, didn't look back. They didn't bind her hands, just walked her toward the wagon like she belonged there. The rancher didn't move, couldn't. He held the baby against his chest. His weight is small, fragile. The wagon creaked off. Dust rose. He stood there long after it vanished. The baby started to cry. At first it was soft, then sharper. He stepped back inside, tried to rock him. Nothing worked. He tried milk. I tried humming. Tried. Silence. The crying got worse. High, thin, piercing. Like he wasn't crying from pain, but from knowing. The rancher sat down hard, back against the wall, baby in his arms, tears building in his throat. I'm sorry, he whispered. The baby screamed. The sound cut through the walls, filled the house, shook the glass. It didn't stop. And for the first time, the rancher felt it. Real fear, like fire in his throat, like a noose tightening that wasn't made of rope. He thought of her hands, burned, of the letter in ash, of the badge still buried in the barn wall, of the men who smiled with nothing behind their teeth. He stood, holding the child tighter. I'm coming, he said aloud. The crying stopped, just like that. The baby blinked once. The rancher looked out of the window, eyes fixed west, and then he moved. He followed the wagon tracks through the pasture, past the ridge, past the dead cottonwood that leaned like it wanted to fall, but never would. The child pressed silent against his back in the sling she'd tied before they took her. The rancher didn't speak, didn't stop, just moved where the ground still remembered her steps. By the time he reached the old church, the sky had turned to ash. The bell hung still. No wind, no sound, just the smell of cold rust and blood not yet dried. He saw the first man guarding the entrance, leaning back, half asleep. The second was nowhere. He didn't go for his rifle. I didn't need it. He moved fast, silent. The man looked up a second too late. The rancher hit him hard, once to the jaw, once to the throat. No questions, no mercy. The body hit the dirt like a sack of bones. Out cold. He stepped past him and followed the side path down toward the rear of the church, where the land dipped, where the well still stood. Same stones, same rope, same lie. She was there, tied to the post beside it. Her head hung low, hair matted to her face, dress torn at the hem. He ran, dropped to his knees, set the baby down beside him in the grass. "Hey," he whispered. "Hey, look at me." Her eyes opened, no voice, just breathe. "I'm here," he said. "I'm not leaving again." She blinked once, eyes swollen, lips cracked, but she nodded. He pulled the rope from her wrists. Slow, careful. "You're okay," he whispered. She wasn't, but she was alive. She tried to speak, but nothing came. "You don't have to," he said. "You don't need to say a thing." She pointed toward the stones. He turned. The second man was there, standing at the edge of the trees, gun drawn. "You made a mistake," the man said. The rancher stood slowly. "Yeah, I waited too long." "You think she's worth it?" He didn't answer. "She's just a girl, always was." "She's not yours." "She was bought." "Not anymore." The man stepped forward, gun steady. "Move," he said. The rancher didn't. "You think I won't shoot with a baby here? I think you've done worse." Behind him, the baby was silent, watching. She was sitting up now, arms limp but eyes burning. The rancher took one step forward. "Don't be stupid," the man warned. "I already was." Another step. "You really gonna die for her?" "No." Another step. "I'm gonna live like I should've." He lunged. The gun fired, missed. They crashed into the stones. Fists, elbows. The man screamed as his arm cracked. The rancher didn't stop. Didn't stop when the man begged. Didn't stop when he clawed at the stones. Didn't stop when he reached for the rope. He grabbed the man by the collar, dragged him to the edge, looked him in the eyes. "You remember what you did here?" The man shook his head, crying now. "You will." And then he shoved. The body dropped fast. The sound, sickening. Wet. Then silence. The well swallowed it whole, like it always had. He stood there, chest heaving. The woman didn't speak, just watched him. The baby blinked. The rancher walked back, picked up the child, lifted her gently to her feet. She leaned on him. Didn't say thank you. Didn't have to. They left the church behind them. Smoke rising behind the hill now. The fire he'd lit before heading out finally catching. The ground didn't feel cursed anymore, just honest, just burned. And somewhere beyond the trees, he swore he felt someone watching. He woke before the sun. House quiet, fire low. The baby was still asleep in the cradle near the stove, one hand curled like he was holding something only he could see. The woman's side of the bed was cold. He sat up slowly, rubbed his face, listened. No footsteps, no movement, just the sound of wind slipping through the eaves. He turned to the bed. The blanket lay there, folded clean. Same one he gave her the day she walked in barefoot and silent. It was still warm. He stood. I walked to the door. It wasn't locked. He stepped onto the porch, boots scraping against the old boards. I looked toward the barn, the pasture, the ridge, empty. No note, no tracks. Just the kind of gone that doesn't leave a trace. He didn't call out, just stood there, breathing her absence. The baby stirred inside. He walked back in, lifted the child from the cradle. The boy blinked twice, calm. "You're still here," the rancher said. He sat down at the table with the child in his lap. The letter was gone. The badge, too. Just ash on the stove now. He'd burned them both the night before. Watched them curl and vanish like they'd never mattered. But they had. He looked at the cot where she used to sleep, at the floorboards she paced in silence, at the window she always watched through, like the horizon had something to tell her. Maybe it did. He poured water into a tin cup, drank it slowly. The baby pressed his head to the rancher's chest. He ran a hand over the boy's back. Steady. Small. "Guess it's just us now," he whispered. No answer, just breathe, just warmth. The morning came pale and slow. He packed a bag with milk, cloth, and one clean shirt, slung it over his shoulder, tucked the baby into the sling. Then he walked, down past the barn, past the well, past the place where bones still slept and names had never been carved into stone, up to the fence line, the same one where a girl once stood, bruised and begging, and he'd looked away. Not this time. He stood there for a long while, facing west. The baby didn't cry. The wind carried the smell of wood smoke from somewhere beyond the ridge. Not fire, just memory. He didn't know where she'd gone, or if she'd come back. But he knew what she'd left behind. The truth, a child, and the choice to be something else. He tightened the sling. "You're mine now," he said. "And I'll remember." He stepped past the fence, not running, not chasing, just walking forward, steady, toward a life that hadn't been written yet. And behind him, the house stood quiet. The blanket is still folded, still warm. He didn't mean to find it, just went walking with the baby strapped to his chest, trying to breathe, trying to think. The wind was dry, and the dirt was softer near the old church, like something underneath had been loosened. He stepped through brush, past the broken fence, past the bell that hadn't rung in days. The baby was quiet, always quiet. Behind the church was a small hill. He hadn't walked it before, too overgrown, too forgotten. But something pulled at him. Not a sound, not a sign. Just pull. Like gravity, but sideways. He moved the brush back with his hands. Briars caught his sleeves. Roots tangled beneath his boots. That's when he saw it. The stone wasn't big, wasn't polished, just crooked granite, half sunk into the earth. No flowers, no offering. The name was nearly worn away, but not enough. Matthew L. Ward, born 1842, died 1879. The rancher stopped breathing. He crouched down, traced the letters with his fingers. His brother's name. He read it again, and again. Dead. 40 years ago. But that wasn't possible. He'd seen him alive. 6 years back. Drunker than usual. Slurring lies about politics and land deals. Still loud. Still powerful. Still cruel. The woman had said he was still alive, that he'd changed his name, that he still wore a badge, but the stone said otherwise. "Dead," the rancher whispered. The baby stirred. He looked at the date again. The numbers made no sense. "The gap is too wide. The math is wrong." He stood. I looked around. No other stones nearby. Just that one. Half covered, half hiding. Who buried him? Who carved this? And if Matthew Ward had died in 1879, then who the hell had been hunting the woman? Who had signed that deal? Who had written the letter he burned? He heard movement behind him. It turned fast. Nothing. Just wind. But it didn't feel like the wind. He looked down at the baby. "You feel it too?" he asked. The child blinked once, eyes still facing west. The rancher looked back at the stone. "No one dies twice," he muttered. "But some men, maybe, don't die at all." He touched the cold granite again. His hand trembled. He remembered the way his brother looked the last time he saw him. Same jaw, same voice, but older than he should have been. Pale in the face, eyes dark, like something was sitting behind them. "Did you fake it?" he said out loud. "Or did someone else bury you?" The baby made no sound. "Or are you something else now?" His mouth went dry. What kind of man walked the earth with a death date already carved? He stepped back. The ground didn't feel steady. His stomach turned. The woman had said the boy was a memory, that he carried what others tried to forget. He looked at the child again. Maybe she meant more than that. The baby blinked, didn't cry, didn't flinch. The rancher took one more look at the gravestone, then tore a piece of bark from a nearby stump, laid it on top of the stone like a mark. He didn't know why, just felt like something should watch it. On the walk back, he didn't speak. The boy's breath was soft against his chest. But something had changed. The world looked different, bent at the corners, like the truth had warped it. The sun dipped lower. The wind picked up. He held the baby tighter. Behind him, the church bell didn't ring, but he could still feel it. The Ridge store hadn't opened in weeks. Not since the last rain cracked the window and knocked the old bell crooked. Folks said the widow who ran it had gone soft in the mind, stopped selling kerosene, and started talking to shadows. The rancher hadn't set foot there since his wife passed. He didn't expect to again. But that morning, the widow sent for him. A boy rode out from the ridge with a note. "Come before noon. Bring the child." No signature, just the smell of ash on the paper. He strapped the baby to his chest, packed light, and rode out before thinking twice. When he reached the ridge, the store door was already open. Not wide, just cracked enough for breath to slip through. He tied the horse, stepped inside. The widow sat behind the counter, face thin as bark, eyes sharp enough to slice a lie in half. Her hands were folded on the counter. A black book rested beneath them. "You came," she said. "You called," he replied. Her eyes dropped to the sling. "That him?" He nodded. "Let me see his eyes." He hesitated, then pulled the cloth back just enough. She looked, didn't blink. "I dreamed of him," she said. "Before the river turned red, before the barn burned, before any of it." He stepped closer. "Why now?" She lifted the ledger. "Because it's time." She pushed it across the counter. He didn't reach for it. "What is it?" he asked. "A map," she said, "but not for land." He opened it slowly, pages worn soft, names in ink. Every line is neat, organized, payments, dates, initials, one name more than the others, M.L. Ward. His breath caught. "Your brother did more than watch," she said. He flipped to the next page. Another girl's name. A payment was signed off, a church location, then another, and another. He arranged them, the widow said. "Moved them like cattle." "How long have you had this?" "Since the last girl didn't come home." "Why keep it?" "Because no one else would." He turned to the last page. No name, just a symbol. The same badge he'd burned, drawn in charcoal, faint, smudged, but unmistakable. The baby shifted against him. "You said you dreamed of him," the rancher said. "What does that mean?" "I dreamed of a boy with no name," she said. "Eyes like the past, breath like thunder, a child who'd carry the weight of every forgotten girl." He closed the book. "Why me?" "Because you're the last man standing who looked away and still came back." He ran a hand over his face. "You could have given this to someone else. No one else would have believed it." "I'm not sure I do." "You don't have to. He already does." She looked at the child again. "You think he's going to do something?" "I think he already has." The front door creaked. The rancher turned. No one, just wind. But the widow stood up. "They know." "Who?" "The ones who kept the books clean, the ones who paid to look the other way." He grabbed the ledger. "What do I do with this?" "Carry it," she said, "until it leads you where it needs to." The baby blinked, slow, focused. "You feel that?" the rancher whispered. The widow nodded. "They're scared of him," she said. "Why?" "Because he remembers what they buried." He looked down at the boy, then back at her. "Is this revenge?" "No," she said. "It's inheritance." He stepped back, ledger in one hand, child in the other. "Where do I go?" "Where they think you won't." He turned toward the door. "The past is getting louder," she called after him. He didn't respond, just stepped into the light and walked. The road narrowed to nothing the farther he rode, just dirt cut with wagon scars and tufts of brittle grass. The baby was quiet against his chest, heavier than he used to be. The ledger sat in the saddlebag, wrapped in oilcloth, but its weight followed him like smoke. Maxton Homestead. That was what the widow had whispered, what the book had named again and again. 5 girls. No last names. No one was buried. He reached the rise just past sundown. The house stood alone beneath a line of dead trees. There were no windows, not covered, not broken, just gone. Boards nailed flush where glass should have been. No steps, just a crooked porch that leaned like it had given up waiting. He didn't tie the horse, just dismounted and walked, the child pressed tight to his ribs. The wind didn't move out here. The light felt too still. The front door opened on the first pull. Inside, the air was dry, cold in the kind of way that had nothing to do with weather. He stepped in slowly. No furniture, no table, just a long, empty room with wide wooden planks that creaked under every step. The baby looked ahead without blinking. He lit a match. Hold it low. Symbols cut into the floor. Not letters, circles, lines. Things made by someone who didn't write but needed to remember something. Maybe a name. Maybe a warning. He walked to the back of the house. A single door there, blackened wood, iron latch, no handle, the cellar. He stood in front of it, staring. The baby moved. "You feel it?" he whispered. The child didn't blink, just stared at the frame. The latch came free with a groan. He opened the door. Steps led down into the dark that felt thicker than it should. He lit another match. The flame danced like it didn't want to go down. He did anyway. Each step sank with weight. The deeper he went, the quieter the house became. Even the wind disappeared. The flame caught something, metal glinting in the corner, a chair, bolted to the floor. Leather straps are still dangling. He turned the flame. There were ropes on the wall, cut ends, stains beneath them. He swallowed hard, symbols carved into the beams. Same ones from the floor above, a language written only by pain. He stepped further. In the far corner, a box. He crouched, opened it. Letters, all folded the same. Old, yellowed, dozens, maybe more. He pulled one out, read the first name, then the second, then the signature at the bottom. His brother's. He pulled another. Different girl, different year, same final signature. He stood fast, turned toward the wall. Names, etched deep, some crossed out, some circled. He ran his finger across one. Anna Lee. Below it, Ruthie. Elma. C. All girls. The ledger hadn't lied. "You saw this," he said to the boy, or something like it. The baby blinked, still quiet. The rancher walked back up the stairs, matching trailing smoke. When he reached the top, he didn't shut the door. He left it open, like the truth deserved air now. Outside, the wind had returned. He looked back at the house. It didn't look haunted, just used up. The kind of place where people tried to make memory disappear by locking it underground. He stepped off the porch. The baby shifted. He adjusted the sling. "You know where to go next?" he asked. No answer, just breathing. He walked past the trees, back toward the trail. The sky overhead had gone a strange shade of gray-blue, between dusk and dark, the color of things that can't decide what they are. Behind him, the house didn't move, but the feeling followed, and the rancher, for the first time, didn't feel like he was chasing the past anymore. He felt like the past was chasing him, and it wasn't finished yet.